Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in to this live session. I'm really glad to have you here, and I'm glad for the ones who listen after. But today we are doing two things. I have a story for you. Story, go grab your tea. We're talking about creating your own reality, and we'll do this in a roundabout way. So we'll start with the story. But can we please start with this? Can we? You guys are such good sports. Ooh, ah, ee. You know what? That helps me relax, especially when doing a live. So that's really good for me. So the story is this: I was working. This was a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago. But I was working, and we had a session where we were training leaders. We were training leaders, company presidents within the same company for so different countries on different things that they needed to know. I'm a lawyer, so from a legal perspective, just things that they needed to be aware of. And the training was really being handled by other people, and it was more of a conversational kind of thing. And it was a super big hall, this huge hall with all these people. And I truly, truly, truly felt out of my depth. These I had dealt with leadership, but I just felt that this was so elevated, like tuned up at such a higher level, because there's so many and then they're all men. Unfortunately, they're all men. I was I think at the time I was the only woman in my team. Oh, that is really interesting. I hadn't really thought about that until just now. So yeah, that didn't help. We were, I think, a couple of black people. So not that many, but at least we were two or three. So that was at least context. I mean, the room probably had I want to say 30, 30 leaders or so. So anyway, so everything was going well. I didn't have much to say. Mine was really just to sit and listen for the most part, because it was another team that was presenting. But then at the Q&A session, someone asked a question, and because I have taken the step of just being back, not seeking a seat at the table, mine would be the one I will zip it and let all the other people say whatever needs to be said. And by then, I don't know if I'd read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. I can't quite recall. I think I had. I think I had, and maybe that's what even made me go to this occasion, because I don't think I really needed to go, because again, I wasn't presenting, I wasn't saying anything. So Lean In is a really good book in terms of helping women understand that sometimes when you're in these situations, it's not so much you who doesn't know what to say. It's that there's been such a build-up from society from forever in your lifetime that has set it up in such a way that you don't speak. You don't speak. You don't dare to speak. And that's now where I found myself. Oh, in this place with all these people. And the question had come up, and it hadn't been properly answered according to me. And then there was silence. Like no one knew the answer to this question. But I did. I had the answer. Oh, you know this, you're women, you have gone through this yourself. You understand this mental turmoil that you go through. Because then I'm wishing that someone else will say it. Because for me, it's so obvious. This is the obvious way this thing needs to be handled. But then no one would. And then there was just silence. And then it just seemed to be that this team doesn't know how to answer this question and they were about to move on. Let me tell you. The way I don't know where these guts were gathered from. It felt like I was doing something so out of the norm, because this is the fight and flight, yeah. So your survival instincts have kicked in just to be able to speak in a meeting. Let me say this, because I don't think that men really understand this part, because men have been socialized differently. Men from the time when they were children, when they were little boys, they were encouraged to take the step. They were encouraged to go climb up that tree. We were discouraged as girls. We were told that we're pretty. We're pretty little things. We just need to sit and smile, because we're being groomed into this lifetime where the only thing we need to have is a good man by our side. Then now, in this century, we have women who are working. And then we haven't changed the training. So, and remember, I think I mentioned this before, that I was reading somewhere that the messages that you give to children around the ages of, I think it was three, before five, around that age, goes straight into the subconscious because the conscious mind hasn't fully developed. So when your little girl is told that, she just needs to sit and be pretty, discouraged from playing all the harsh games because that's not for her. This is the outcome. Because that was the outcome for me. Sweating, just palpitating. It was an insane amount of stress compared to the situation that I was in. But I think what made it even more stressful is the realization that I had made in my head, the decision that I was going to say something. So what happens? I don't know if there was a mic. Either there was a mic or there wasn't. But then I just started speaking. My voice was shaking like, that leaf in the wind. Speaking, shaking like I could hear my voice shaking and I couldn't do anything about it. And then I was speaking and I was giving the answer. And I was looking around and I could see that everyone was looking down because everyone was embarrassed for me. Everyone was embarrassed about how scared I obviously was. And I spoke and I gave my answer. How I felt at the time was that I didn't expect anybody to hear me because I'm just me. That was my mindset at the time. I'm just me. What could I possibly have to say that these wonderful big leaders who've been at it for years and years would want to listen to? So that was my state. But I dug in. I said what I had to say. Then I was also a little scared of my boss at the time because it was I felt that I might embarrass him. Whew. So that is the spotlight pressure. And let me tell you, people, women again, you know this. So this one we're inviting the men in for this conversation. And ladies, please, I'd really, really, really love to hear from you in the comments about situations that you yourself have been in that were just like that. Because the insanity of it is that this was a meeting, fine, it had a lot of leaders, but truly it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't a press conference. We weren't creating something new that was, sending out. And then this happens in different places. I mean, this has happened to me in even meetings with my team members. People, people who I meet every day, very, very often. And yet the idea of giving my own opinion had become such a tremendous task, taking so much energy, so much from me. So we're using this story. What happened after that? After that, I mean, I gave my piece and then I sat down. I felt, even after saying what I had to say, I think I was berating myself in my head. Why did you stand up? And then why was your voice shaking? You sounded terrible. Oh, daddy, daddy, dad. So then that remained the conversation in my head. Truly, I did not speak for more than 30 seconds, I'm sure. I didn't, it wasn't that much. I was explaining something and I did manage to explain. So what I said was factual. How it came out was that shaky kind of thing. How it was received, my perspective looking out at the people was that they didn't really take it in because of how I was saying it. And that wouldn't be the only time. The other times I was presenting and my voice was shaking. In fact, I remember from even my earlier years that when I would have a presentation to give, my eyes would go red. Even when my voice would not shake, my eyes would go red. And it's all this stuff happening inside at the idea of doing this. And that really is doing it scared. So I pat that younger self on the back. And it is because that girl was able to stand up and do this thing that she felt was impossible. That years later, I mean, now leadership does not scare me at all. I watch people who are scared of leadership, including leaders themselves, and I look at them and I wonder why. Why? So I have compassion absolutely for them, and now I can see it across the genders. Now I see it not only as a female thing, but also men. There are men who are also depending, I guess, on the leadership, depending on the situation, depending on what they're trying to get out of it. So it could be that they also get scared. So that helped me as well to understand that, first of all, it's not just me in this little hole who gets into those kind of situation of fear, and also to understand that you can relax yourself. You can there are things that you can do. You can prepare what you're saying. You can sometimes I call out to the ancestors to calm my voice. In fact, that's something I did once. I said, I'm going to give this presentation. I do not want my voice to shake. So I called on the spirit of my mother to hold my hand and say, this is going to be okay. And so I gave the fear to her. I said, you manage this fear. I will be busy giving the presentation. Well, whatever works. And, to know your stuff, to be aware, to understand that the people you're talking to are also just people. It's not that there's this classification of people, not castes, this class, yeah, class as in the corporate sphere. So it's a hierarchy. So there's a person at the top who's very important, and then the lower down you go, the less important you are. So in that situation, when I was giving that talk, I was maybe midway in the hierarchy, but in that room I was, yeah, probably towards the bottom, which is what then made it much more scary. But when you understand that these people in that hierarchy are actually just human beings, that the divinity that flows in me flows in them, then we just become one. We are all just one person. And there is really no reason to fear them as people, fear them as leaders, unless there's something about the leadership that is off. No. Now, we are using that example to talk about creating your own reality. Because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine and she didn't understand. I was telling her, she was explaining a certain situation to me. And can I say it? I won't name you, so let me name the situation. Yeah. She was telling me about how her child had been bullied. So it was a color thing. He was bullied because of his color, and it was really, really nasty. And her perspective of it was that this is something that will go on throughout his childhood. And I challenged that. I didn't tell her this, but part of my challenge was because of my own experience. I was I was one of the few, I think we only had like two or three black families in the school that I went to when I was young. The rest were white. So then I did suffer bullying, but the bullying was frankly from there were two boys. Truly, I speak about them in my book, Date Like Cleopatra, The Good Girl Flips the Script. Yeah. There are two boys and one teacher is what I'm consciously aware of as color related bullying. There was there was actually I didn't really suffer any other bullying. That was it. I only got color related bullying, and it was from three people in a school of thousands, maybe thousands. No, the school wasn't that big. Of 1,000 maybe. A school of maybe 500 to 1,000 people. So from that perspective, I did not have the idea that bullying is something that must happen. And I think even in Kenya specifically, bullying is not, in my perspective anyway, especially in primary school, is not something that truly, truly happens. In the movies I see, it seems to be something that happens a lot in the US. So the school that I was in was in Europe, was in France. And again, I don't have a general perspective on this. So I don't have an expectation, which is what I was trying to tell her, that if you do have the expectation that this will happen, then it is likely to happen because you are drawing it in. And this is where we are going with this example. Now, tying it all in together. So I had a few notes. So the first one to put here is you get what you expect. To go back to this example that I gave you, when I was in that room, my expectation was that these people would not hear me because I'm a woman. I'm I don't think the black thing had much to do with it, but I'm just me. I had a very small perspective of myself at the time. So I'm just me. Why would they listen to just me? Yeah. And because that was my expectation, when I looked around, that's what I saw, and that's probably what I got. And that really ties in. I think I had another example here before I go to the next one. Yes, I have an example here. I said here that you don't necessarily control the weather, but which we know you don't control the weather, do you? But I watched this documentary that was fascinating. It was somewhere in the US that doesn't rain much, so one of these drier places. And there were these two guys who had this notion that the way people feel and the way people not so much pray, but pray in terms of what they long for, what they wish for, what they express as needing is what will happen. So they went through a campaign where they said that they wanted people to wish for rain, expect rain. The thing I remember them doing is having like bumper stickers that I recall. They had bumper stickers. I think they even went to the media. They tried really hard. I don't know if they got like a billboard. So it was just trying to spam this message of telling people to think of rain and to expect rain. And yes, 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 it is not made up. Well, from the documentary I saw, that it rained. It rained in such an unexpected way. But the point being that um, if you have enough people who are thinking in this way, it is possible to have tremendous change. Yes, this is woo woo, you might say, but I am woo woo. I absolutely believe in these things. Your mindset absolutely creates the life experience that you're going to have. And I was watching that on Masterclass the other day. I was watching a session on growth mindset. And that's what they were saying. The growth mindset has to do with what's the word? Developing yourself. Developing yourself. So there's a fixed mindset that says that this is what will happen to me. This is all I can expect. This is how it has always been. The end. I die. And there's a growth mindset that says, even though this is where I am, I'm going to look out for opportunities to change things. How can I improve it? How can I change it? How can I make it better? How can I change my life experience? And they say that's the difference. This person who is thinking that way will absolutely do all the things that are required to get them to achieve whatever it is that they want. And whether or not they do achieve it, the fact that they believe it is what's making them strive towards it. So they are 100% more likely to achieve it than this person who's doing nothing. They say I was born like this. This is what life has dished out for me. This is all that I can do. There you go. So making the woo woo more scientific. Is that too much of a stretch? um, if you believe a certain outcome will happen, it will happen. The example, oh, the dog whisperer. So, how my whole life into the energetic space happened, and I make it sound much more dramatic than it is. But the energetic space for me is just believing that energy matters, which is actually our next point. Maybe I just put it there. Your energy matters. The Dog Whisperer. You know, I've even gone back to watching it. Dog Whisperer is a program with Cesar Milan, who is a dog whisperer. He manages to get the most aggressive and horrible and terrible of dogs to behave like patient little puppies. And people are like, how does it happen? And he says that he rehabilitates dogs but trains people. And there's a time I watched, this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I would sit down and I watched all episodes of The Dog Whisperer. They're like, I don't know if they're 8 or 13. There are many. And no, seasons. Those are 8 or 13 seasons. And each season has like at least 10 episodes. And I kid you not, each and every single episode is about the same thing. The message is one. But I found that message so powerful, so compelling. I wanted to absorb his energy. I wanted to absorb his message. I wanted to be able to live what he was teaching in my day to day. Because at the point I wasn't able to. He was teaching you to relax, first of all. He was saying, calm down, slow down, relax. It's what nowadays I'd say be in your body. Calm down, relax. And he was teaching the reason that the dogs were going crazy and exploding in many cases. Of course, this is not a one size fits all, but in many cases, it is because the dog owners had the expectation in their minds that this is what was going to happen. So this dog has been biting people. When we go out, this dog will bite people. So what he was telling them was to remove that from their minds. I was captivated because even though I don't have a dog, I know that what he was teaching was the expectation you have in your mind is what is going to become the reality. The energy that you're holding within you is visible, is experienced by the dog. The dog is not reacting to what you're saying to it. The dog is reacting to the energy with which you hold yourself. So he was telling the owners that they need to be calm and assertive. Calm and assertive. They should not be reactive. Your dog has done this. Yes, your dog did this yesterday. It's going to do this today. So with that, you're not calm. You're tensed because this is the leash. This is the leash that you're putting around your hand and really holding on to your dog to stop them from doing that. You're tense. Your tension is transmitting to the dog. Your dog understands we need to be tense because your dog is learning from you. Your dog is feeding from your energy. And the reason that I was watching this program so much is I longed, I was thirsting to understand how, first of all, to calm myself down. I felt, yes, that I was not calm. I did not understand. I could see him, how he'd go around. He'd be, you know, he said that whenever he'd go into a setup, he wouldn't first see what the problem was. He wouldn't go into the audition tapes to understand what the issue with the dog was. No, he wanted a free mind. He wanted to just walk in and see and understand and hear from the people and understand and see the relationship between the people with themselves, the relationship between the people and the dogs. And sometimes after watching many, and now I'm back again, I'm back to watching this. But after watching it, at times I started seeing the tension in the people. Before I hadn't. I could hear him telling them that they're tense, but I couldn't see it. But now I started seeing the tension in the people. I started understanding why he absolutely loved working with children, because children did not have that tension. They hadn't built it over years. They hadn't been told the things that they can and cannot do. They hadn't been exposed to um, life over years. I call it life because that's how we make it. So they hadn't had all that much messaging. They believed in themselves. They were calm. They were perhaps not paying the rent, but they were calm. They were calm and they almost instinctively understood how to be assertive. And that for me was the other one. What does assertion mean? I did not, I understood the words that you need to be assertive, but I did not know how to translate that into my day to day. What do I need to do to get this? I remember this now. It's it's uh it's beautiful to get the understanding because that's where it all starts out, the realization that there's something missing. And that is what I got. I realized that that was something missing within me. And at the time, watching The Dog Whisperer did not give me the understanding of how to get there. Why? Because I wasn't ready. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. My teacher had appeared as Cesar Milan to teach me that there was something I needed to develop, that I needed to develop calmness and assertion. But there was so much more within me that I hadn't unpacked, and that I needed to go to therapy to understand. I needed to sit down with someone and unpack my past to understand what had happened within my life path that had created a situation where calmness and assertion were not available to me. And once I got through that, then I then got through books and courses. I got the understanding of the how. The student was ready. I got new teachers, and the teachers were then teaching me how to be calm and how to practice assertion. That really has been like a 5-year journey, if I'm honest. From when I started watching Cesar Milan to when I went through all this now. And I have my own course because I've gotten that understanding. I truly want to impart this on other women because I appreciate that it is our upbringing that has, for a greater extent, removed the our ability to even see that there's more to us than we allow ourselves to access. So this information is available through different places. So there's a first point of understanding that there's something that needs to be done, that there's something, in my case, that I needed the calmness and the assertion, yeah, which I got from TV. And honestly, now when I watch Cesar Milan again, because I am rewatching The Dog Whisperer, it's amazing how different it is. Because now I can see how he was teaching, because he was actually teaching how to do it as well. But because I wasn't available within my system, not just my mind, my system wasn't available for me to learn that yet because I needed to unpack my past. Then I wasn't, that learning wasn't available to me. Now I watch it for leisure. Now I love the dogs. And it's a remarkable path. And these paths are available to you. They're available to you just like me, from TV, from courses, from books, from therapy, from coaching. Seek it out. Seek it out. If you're interested in my coaching course, it's called Finding Me. It's a beautiful course that includes work. You're going to sit down and write. Because that's the thing with self-help and self-development. It's not something that you just listen to passively. Listening to this, you understand and you think, yeah, that's good, that's interesting. But I needed to do the work. I needed to go in and uncover that past, and then from there make actual changes. There are steps that I needed to make to brand is a word that comes to mind, to rebrand myself. I was no longer that girl who felt that she was nothing, who felt that she was so small, who felt that she had no right to be speaking to all these men and telling them anything. So you see how that works even in the corporate world. In my book, Date Like Cleopatra, The Good Girl Flips the Script, a lot of this book is not so much about dating, if I'm honest, but more about how to reconnect as well to yourself. So this is also a place to get that. How to re-explore your self-worth. So it has a lot of exercises and things to actually do, things to write down again, things to do out there in the world that help you reconnect with yourself. And that's really what this is about, reconnection to self. That's how it reconnecting to myself has given me truly a new lease of life. I walk through this planet as if I'm a totally different person, because I am. It's a different level of consciousness. And I'll quote, and then I've forgotten who the quote is from, but they say that you cannot solve the problems with the same level of consciousness that created them. Yeah. You need to change. Ooh, there it is. We apparently were very happy with that. That one I did not do, but I appreciate it being done, because it's that you need to change. You need to get into this different mindset. If you're not enjoying the life experience you're having now, you need to step out of that level of consciousness, that you are then, to become a different level of consciousness, a different person, to be able to deal with it. So in my case, the levels of consciousness came from the person who hadn't watched Dog Whisperer and the person who did were different levels of consciousness. That's how to put it. Because after watching The Dog Whisperer, I came to understand that there's something about my previous level of consciousness that needed to change. And I needed to seek out growth mindset. I needed to seek out how to get that change. We are on energy. I love Cesar Milan. I don't know how I truly feel he changed my life. It's amazing. Yeah, I tell people this and they truly, truly wonder, but it's really that the working of energy. So we are energetic beings and can read each other's energy. So that's what I got. I took it a step further. If the dogs can read energy and the babies can read energy, because that is something that I had noted, that babies, because you can get a sense of babies reacting to people. What are their reactions based on? Often it is energy. It is the energy that the person is portraying, the energy they're coming in with. I'm a cat person, and I do have that. Sorry, excuse me. I'm a cat person, so I have noticed that cats behave differently around different people. And from that, putting it all together, it's this understanding that it's energy. We are energetic beings. That's what our souls are. It's energy. It's a ball of energy. And we the way, if you've ever walked into a room and felt something, felt a certain like message, a feeling that came into you when you walked into that room. Either you felt that there was danger, or you felt that there was something untoward, or you felt that it was a truly pleasant atmosphere. You started almost smiling before you were there, that is energy. That is how we are energetic beings. We can tell, we can read it, we can read it. So people can read your energy. What example do I have here? I have an interesting example. But let me tie it first of all to the first example that I gave. That in that room where my energy was, I'm not worth it. These people should not listen to me. I'm not, that was where my energy was. They could feel it. I was radiating this energy outwards. And because of that, they probably did not get my message. Mm. Let's actually stick with that. Yeah, that was the next one that I had there. So that is energy. Now let us go to, this is, I think, more of a solution, aren't we? Faking it, creating your reality. Because what do you do? What do you do? You hear all the time, fake it till you make it. Some people believe in it, some people don't. Let me tell you that I do. And my example is Beyonce, Sasha Fierce. Beyonce faked it until she made it. She was a good girl in a church setup singing gospel music, and she wanted to sing raunchy, sexy songs. And there was this divide in her that how I need someone else to do that. And then she created Sasha Fierce, who was the one who could do that. She's the one who could step out and do all these amazing things that we now love Beyonce for. And that is marrying herself with her shadow, letting the part of herself that she felt were wrong because society had told her, no, you cannot be too sexy out there in public. That is shunned upon. Excuse me. Ah, my tea is over with telling you all my stories. Yeah. So look at where she is now. What if she had told herself that no, 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 let me just be small, and then I'll sing these good songs with these nice church dresses, and that is who I'll be. She wouldn't be a fraction of where she is today. Why? Because Sasha is the one that has propelled her. We love this marrying of that beatific smile with her dancing, with her outfits, with everything that she does. Beyonce is everything. Needless to say that I love Beyonce. I've watched her live. She came here to Stockholm, and it was an out of this world experience because she brings all her energy. And that is partly it as well. She brings her energy because she has married her, excuse me, my voice getting a little dry. She has married her everyday persona with her shadow, with the side of her that she has been taught to repress. So that's what, in fact, we're all called to do: how to marry our shadows with, how to marry the repressed side of ourselves with the side of ourselves that we feel that we should be showing to the world. It is a challenge to all of us, a challenge that I continue to do, a challenge that I hope you have taken up as well. It's just something that we're called to do because it's freeing. It's free to be you. It's free not to have these constraints that you can and cannot do this, that, and the other. And I want to mention that she had a song even in that concert called Energy. 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 And it, I can't remember the words exactly right now, but I do think it is about that. How no one's going to put down your energy. Your being. So she comes onto the stage with this elevated power. And we who are there, that's why people will spend all the money to go watch Beyonce. Because you feel like you are um getting a piece of it, that you are getting that power, you're being fed that energy, and it is amazing, it is beautiful. So, what example did I have here about faking it? Oh, let me just read it out. When I spoke to the leadership with a trembling voice, I changed. Ooh, I became someone who had done it before. It became easier, and now I don't worry about it. Ah, and I have an example here. I won't give it, but it's a I now live my life in a way where I have the audacity to do things with leadership. I have the audacity because what happened with the process that I explained before is that I have owned my worth. So, in that point, at the initial first point that I spoke up, I did it scared. And that was the benchmark. It's what I needed to do. I was faking it. I was faking it. And yes, the result was not fantastic. Everyone was not jumping, applauding this amazing thing that I had said. But that laid the groundwork for me to be where I am now. Even talking to you, for crying out loud, doing a live. This is not something that I foresaw. Oh, that version of myself would never, never. Oh my God. This is not something that was in my mind. That we're going to be talking to people and telling them stories. What? On the internet, where things do not disappear. Ah, yeah. So that younger me who took that step was really recreating my future. And this is what we talk about when we talk about like quantum leaping or just different versions of reality. It is possible that if I had not, this is what I believe, firmly believe, that if I hadn't woken up that day to speak, perhaps I'd have had different opportunities to stand up. But if I hadn't taken that step of doing it scared, doing something that I was terrified of doing, I would not have been in the position that I am in now, speaking to you or being having the capacity to speak to leaders. Because now it's not so much that I'm trembling in my boots. It's public speaking always has its own different kind of, what do I call it? Pressure. For me anyway. I guess I guys who've been doing it forever and for them it's perfect. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I think and in fact a good example of this is comedians. When I watch comedians on TV, think of Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. But I don't know if it was his latest one, the one that's called The Dreamer. And in fact, honestly, the message I'm giving you now is the message he gave. Yeah, dear friend of mine, the one we're talking about reality. Go watch Dave Chappelle's Dreamer, because what he says in that set is that he believed when he was super young. He believed in something greater, and he went out for it. He stepped on those stages, scared as almost nothing, but he saw himself doing something great and amazing. And there he was doing it. And if you watch it, you see him before the set starts. He's psyching himself up. He's how do you put it? It's like this angst, this thing that you need to shake out before. And Dave Chappelle, this great Dave Chappelle, who walks on stage as if he owns the set, as if he does this every day. And yet he also has to do like a certain preparation. He's walking up and down, and then he's I can't remember. I do this because this is what I do. I shake myself. I shake out the energy. I shake out the emotions. I shake out whatever it is that's holding me. I do a little dance. But in his case, he was walking up and down, rehearsing lines. He was talking to himself. Yeah. And look at that. Look, greats do that. So if you are having a situation where it could be public speaking, it could even be doing YouTube and going live, join us. Join us. Come, do it. Just do it. And that's the point. You do it scared, and it propels you. It puts you within the timeline. So again, back to the versions of reality. I'm doing this. I'm thinking of strings, different strings. Oh, think of a harp. Ooh, ring. So if you have a harp, each string is a potential life that you could live. I truly love movies that are like that. So the things that happen will Sliding Doors is the movie that I'm thinking of that has that exact script. That's exactly what that movie is about. But what the thing that you do here affects which of these strings that you move to. Because it's not necessarily that your life is this straight line, that you're only ever going to do this kind of thing. Because if you did that, then your life is predestined, and that's terribly boring. You're just acting a script. And that's when we're talking about people who think, whoever, mindset that is fixed. The fixed mindset think that they cannot move out of their lane. But if you have a growth mindset, what you're telling yourself is that the things that I do matter. The things, the effort that I put into things have an effect on what I can do. In fact, it was from that one that I learned that intelligence is not fixed. I honestly thought that people are born with a level of intelligence. I thought intelligence was just a thing that people have or don't have. But their point was, it's I forget who he was, but he was an NFL player who speaks in that masterclass on the mindset. And what he says is that he was hardly good in school, but then he had to study. He had to do what he needed to do. He really needed to put it in there. And it was through that he created the intelligence. It wasn't something that was, you're an ex-student, A, B, C, D, E, F. You put in the effort and then you change. Your level of intelligence can change, your level of knowledge can change. So based on that, you move within these hamstrings. You can move from this one all the way to this one. And I think I'm belaboring this point. And the point there being that in having that talk, in allowing myself while I was in this hamstring to stand up and give a really good answer, incidentally. My answer was very good. My answer was what was missing. So I knew my stuff. So to be able to move from this harp string to a totally different harp string, where I am now, because this is now the different harp string that I am. This is a different reality for me. I've created the reality through that one step. I created the reality that now enables me to be in a room with leaders and not, in fact, to be a leader myself. Let's start there, that I am a leader, and actually to have that mindset to see myself as a leader, such that when I'm speaking now to these people, it's not that they are these wow, amazing, great people, oh, demigods. No, I'm a demigod. So I'm talking to my pure demigods, regardless of who they are. And I think that's it. I said it in jest, but I think that's a super good example because that ties into the divinity that I mentioned before, that we are all divine. We all have the touch of God. And based on that, who's more important than who? Be it, and it's important to also not find yourself more important than people who are not leaders. Let me put it that way. So when you're passing people in the street who are begging, say, people who are begging for money, you're not more important than them. They have divinity in them as well. So it's that realization and carrying that perspective of people around that is super helpful. Okay. Uh, so the last one, leaning into what you already have. This is what I did again. So in that example, this is our base example from which other examples shall flourish. But in that example, what I had was the knowledge. I knew my stuff and I knew my stuff well. In fact, it is because I knew my stuff that I got the courage to stand up and talk, to stand up and speak it. Because whether or not these people took it in, that was fact and that was real and that was important. And I knew my message. And my delivery might have been a little wavy, but my message was solid. I knew my stuff. I that was the basis of the doing and scared. So leaning into what you have. The example I have here is I'll start with this one. Unfortunately, I don't have the quotes. I was reading the book Invisible Women, which is about uh, a lack of data on things from a woman's perspective has created the world that we have now, and it has a lot of gaps in relation to women. So towards the conclusion of that book, she gives the example of a woman who was trying to explain a concept in physics. In fact, she was in class, she was being taught this concept in physics, and it was something that people had been completely unable to present. People had been unable to, I don't want to say quantify it because that's not the thing, to show it. It was a thing that people knew existed, but they didn't know how to present it in a way that made it believable. So it was abstract knowledge without physical understandability, if I put it that way. So this woman, what she did is she listened, and then because she's a woman who used to crochet, she understood the concept almost immediately. Because she understood, she then went home and crocheted an exemplar, an example of what it is that everyone was talking about. And then people saw it. They say it's the opposite of a sphere. I think it's called a hyperbole. So the opposite of a sphere. I actually need to go look for her work to understand what the opposite of the sphere looks like. But she then was able to use her knowledge crocheting with her, I think, grandmother and mother at home. So she just had the tactic, she just used to crochet as a practice. So she went home and she crocheted. And the point that was being pushed out in that book was that because women had not really been allowed to take part in the sciences, this was something that had been missing. The reason that this thing had not been explainable for so many years was partly because women weren't there. She got it in a snap. This thing that people had been unable to do for years and years and years on end, she got it in a snap and was able to create something that people could then use to understand it. Even her teachers were looking at it and saying, "Yeah, I mean, I've been teaching this, but this is the first time that I've seen it represented." So, using what you have. And sometimes what you have is not what the world considers important. What you have, and this again takes us back to the shadow, because what you have is uniquely yours, it's uniquely you. No one else has it. And because of that, you might have been told to repress it. Don't do this, don't do that, because it's not good. And you have taught yourself, you have that societal message, or parental message, or teacher message, or church message telling you don't do that. Let's remember Sasha Fierce. She must have been told that no, 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 no. You must be prim and proper. Yeah, go look at her Instagram and look at the outfits that she wears now. It's like it's amazing. It's like drag is what I was going to say, and it really is because it's so out there. Yeah, and this is Beyonce being Beyonce. So this woman with her crochet needle was able to change the world. Yeah, lean into what you have. Sometimes we don't think that it's important. Is that where we are? Yeah, sometimes we don't think that it's worth anything. Like in my case as well, in the example that I gave you, I was sure that everyone knew this thing that I knew, but apparently they didn't because no one else said it. And it was a super important point. Lean into what you have. I have here the example of Britney Spears. It's a book. I'm reading a book right now, and I should say listening. I do audibles. And within her introduction, she talks about how singing connected her to God. She felt that she was near God when she was singing. What are the odds that she would achieve the celebrity status that she did? Because she came from a small town. It's these things that the odds are not really, really, really in your favor. But look at Britney. Look at what she achieved. Again, leaning into herself. Because sometimes I was just listening yesterday and she was saying that in Hit Me Baby One More Time. Is it that one? The one where they start off in a school in a school setup and she's in this tiny little uniform and the bell rings. That was her idea. Apparently the rest wanted to do it outside or something like that. This girl was 16. Drawing it from what you have. I mean, so much, especially when you're not forced to, you know, quiet your voice. When you have this opportunity to just come out there and be yourself, it's truly amazing what can happen. And that is how you create your reality. Because then you're not forcing yourself to align badly into this box that doesn't fit you. And that's truly something that I've done for such a long part of my life. Yeah, just being proper. We should remove the word proper from our dictionaries because being proper actually means not being yourself, and being yourself is the key to living the kind of life you want to live. So if you're being proper and not being you, that means you're not authentic. But more than that, I'll do an episode on authenticity because I do feel it's a word used a lot, and sometimes it's difficult to grasp to grasp on what it actually means for you. What does authenticity mean for you? But real, I think, is what I want to go into now. That if if your reality is not what you want, is you're faking it. Actually, that's the point. You're faking it by not being yourself. And whereas faking it till you make it, it has a tail. You're not faking your life. You're not just existing. You have a goal and you're working towards it. You're doing something to get there. That is the faking it from that perspective. But if your whole life is faking it, you don't enjoy it. And the one related to that is, oh, cats. When you have cats, you have cats here in many places. But I was going to say the one related to that existence where you're not really living yourself is that you could have something where you're, Napoleon Hill calls it drifting. I like that word. It's you're on autopilot. You're living your life as if you're not there. You're not engaging yourself. You're just doing the things that you have been told to do, and you're just engaging yourself. You're checked out. And that's not living. That's existing. And unfortunately, that is what a lot of society and school and church and parents even have taught us to do, because we are living our lives to be okay with the Joneses. And yet even the Joneses are not happy with their lives. Yeah. We are doing what we are meant to do, what we have been taught we are meant to do. And in which case we're losing out on who we actually are. So let's try for that. Let's create our own reality. Play around with it. Try thinking of something that you would really, really, really like to achieve. And then ask yourself what steps you would need to do. These things don't fall on your lap. These things take work. Because if there's something that you absolutely long for, this is something that would make you so excited. And think of the things that excited you as a child before you started getting all these different teachings in your head. What is it that excited you? And sit down with a pen and paper, chat out the things, or a laptop. We are in 2025. Chat out the steps that you would need to take. Go to Canva. Canva is one of my favorite things. Go to Canva and ask it for like a mind map, and or an idea, a brainstorming board, and it will give you the setup. Then you can just throw in the ideas together of the things that you need to do to get to the place that you want to get to. Because then you're owning it. You're not just saying that this can never happen. No, you are living the life and intention with intention. Your intentionality is the one that's portraying what is going to happen with you. And these are steps that we take with from small things to big things. What little goals you have, what big goals you have, to the extent that these are things that will bring you life, bring you some form of pleasure. Because we don't spend enough of time striving for pleasure in our lives. We are more, we need, we must, we must. Let's find a way of engaging with ourselves in wholesomeness, is what I'm going for. I absolutely appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, it's out. Date like Cleopatra. The Good Girl Flips the Script by me, Shiro Ndune. Go get yourself a copy. Go to shirondune.com if you need more information about that. And I appreciate you. The course Finding Me is also on shirondune.com. Go check it out if you're interested. And thank you, as always, thank you for joining me. Bye bye.